are live. The Army values, the warrior ethos, coaching, and therapy. This is Warrior Leadership. This is Warrior Leadership. And I'm here with my man,
DB the therapist.
DB the therapist. And I'm JJ Hardy, owner of Victory Leadership Coaching. And here we have another episode of Warrior Leadership where we are going to talk about not difficult conversations, but crucial conversations, which means any type of conversation that is important to have.
Mm-hmm.
Get us kicked off there, DB the therapist. What you got?
Man, crucial conversations. Well, can we just be transparent?
Sure.
Let's just be transparent on Warrior Leadership, because that's what we do. So
Okay.
we had a crucial conversation today, just to give it an example. And in a crucial conversation, what basically happens is that and this kind of goes with like active listening, but in the day and age we live in, when you're sending a text, when you're sending an instant message, the way you respond, the other person is reading into and feeling the emotion and the vibe through the text. And so I sent the coach a response back, and I'll admit I was having a heated day. It was a challenging day, and was managing conflict, but getting through jumping over these hoops and stuff. And so I responded rather abruptly. And so the coach called me a couple of times, and I kind of sent them. It's not sending them to the voicemail, but I ignored it because I wasn't ready to have the crucial conversation at the moment. But this morning we were able to have the crucial conversation, and that conversation was me understanding what I felt about the situation, and the situation in particular was, my schedule. And I'm like, I don't like my schedule being controlled, but that was my own thoughts in my head. And so the crucial conversation was being able to not just hold on to it and ignore for, days on end, weeks on end, and then we're not doing our podcast today. We're disconnected and the work isn't getting done. And so a crucial conversation is being able to, no matter how emotionally charged the situation is or the issue is, even no matter how controversial it is, you come to the center and you have a conversation with those people who you value and want to have an intimate relationship with.
Yes. And the reason we call it crucial, or we can also call it critical, is because, the hard conversations are the ones that if you can push through, even when you're struggling, and have the conversation anyway, you're going to build a relationship. And, I'm not sure if he thought he was going to bite my head off at the time or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, I was ready for whatever. As soon as I saw what his text message was, I was like, hey, I ain't afraid of no ghost. I picked up the phone and I started trying to give him a call. I'm like, you know what? If he's going to let me have it, I'm going to hear it.
You know what? And look, that's getting to know each other, right? And we know now that, we're going to call it the crucial conversations, rules of engagement. We know now that I can jump on the call with you and I can ventilate all that stuff out right there in that moment, and you be able to catch it and not take offense to it, because it's not to be taken offensive. And I think that's where, when you think about this idea of crucial conversations, man, it's interesting because there's verbal violence, and then there's basically isolation and going away from the conflict, which is either way. If, for example, I know you said, I could call and I could have kind of got it off my chest, but there's still a level of respect, right? That I have for you. I will say this, that there's certain things that I'm not going to say to you, right? And especially because if I know it's something to do with me, which it was, I knew it was something to do with me, and that it was just one of my little quirks that I just needed to process it in my own mind. And it's like, I teach this in therapy, actually. And whether this is with couples, whether it's with a boss, a friend, whomever, it's okay to have a timeout. It's okay to have a timeout sometimes and just step away. And especially because, we're reading about this in our book about our words and how our words can be damaging. And to be honest with you, coach, that was probably the major reason why I didn't answer right there, because I was protecting myself from saying something that I would regret. Because I'll be honest, in relationships, I've said the wrong things before because of crucial conversations. And that's why look, I haven't even got through the whole book yet, but I put it right next to me because I am going to get back into it. But this book, the model that's in here, it seems it's very helpful. I haven't read through the whole thing, but the thing that I did take away from this book, man, is that crucial conversations will always be a part of life and we cannot get away from them. That's what I really wanted to hone in on, is like, we cannot escape crucial conversations.
You're absolutely right. But, it's been 3 minutes and he sent us a message. So I have to say this. Steve Martin, this guy right here, is a U.S. Army veteran, and he joined in to say hello and mention that he's here. Steve, my man, glad you're here, buddy.
All right. Welcome, Steve.
But, I agree. And we could talk more about that offline. But at the end of the day, when someone knows that a conversation was important, there are so many different ways things can get misconstrued. And this doesn't even have directly to do with the situation that happened yesterday, but anytime, if something needs to be addressed, sometimes it has to be addressed now. Sometimes it's important to wait until somebody calms down. But at the end of the day, when there's a negative emotion or a negative connotation behind something that you're thinking or whatever the case may be, you have to address that. Because if you don't, and this is why it's crucial or critical, it's because if you stuff it down, you'll eventually explode. And that's part of emotional intelligence, is understanding the right time and place to have that. Now, I got nothing but love for DB, the therapist over here. So if he wants to call me just to scream at me for 5 minutes, I'm good with it.
I promise you, my screaming match is going to last more than 5 minutes.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, diatribe the shit out of it if you want to. Do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, this guy right here, I'll go ahead and make the announcement on social media right now. We're going to be business partners in the future. So
let's go.
And we are going to be partnering up. He's got his Derek Brown LCSW business. I have Victory Leadership Coaching, but there's going to be something bigger. And it's related to what we're talking about right now, not crucial conversations, but I'm not going to, I'm going to dangle the candy in front of people's face, and I'm not going to tell them what it is.
Is it candy or a carrot?
I don't know, because it's pretty damn sweet.
That's good. I like that.
Anyway, no, but crucial conversations.
Yes.
Just keep this in mind. And this is why any difficult conversation is a crucial conversation, because there is a cost to not addressing an issue. There is a cost to not having to not. Gosh, I got to get my thoughts together. But there is a cost to not giving positive praise. There is a cost to not addressing something that needs to be addressed, whether it's positive or negative. And that cost is a loss of relationship with somebody else. If somebody did a great job, they want to hear that they did a great job. Whether they tell you they don't need the credit or not, most people will. It's not the truth. People need validation. On the other side of that, on the negative side, if somebody is hurting your feelings or making a mistake, if you don't address that with them, then they're going to continue thinking that whatever happened was okay. And if you just let somebody to start living in their own mind, it's the most dangerous place in the world. Who knows what's going to come of that? It has to be addressed.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know what? You're hitting it on the head, man. And you know what? I want to read some specific crucial conversations to give the listeners an idea of what a crucial conversation could be, to be very specific. And I think this is helpful. It's asking a friend to repay a loan, right? How many times have you had that issue come up? Borrow money. Whenever
Having a friend what? Repay
asking a
a loan?
friend to repay a loan.
I don't know, man. I personally think that it's a slippery slope to mix family and good friends and and money, because at the end of the day, especially if it's a loan, good Lord, that how often have you loaned somebody money or asked somebody for money or had somebody ask you for money, and then that money has been provided, and then it takes longer than what the opposite party wanted to
Right.
get that money back? And guess, and whether or not the person that loaned the money was even upset, it just sits here.
It sits there.
And you're just like, oh my gosh, he's judging me for not paying that $5 back.
And look, and to your point about the crucial conversation, it's stewing in the mind. But if you've already told them once, you had the crucial conversation about your money, right? If you have to go back again, then now that now the tools that you would use in a crucial conversation are going to be challenged, and they're probably going to change, because at that point you're gonna develop an idea about what they think about you based on the fact that you've already had a conversation with them before. And I know I'm guilty of this. I'm the guy that, and that's why your worldview or your ideology about loaning is the way that it is. And I agree with you that mine is the same, because I've lost count on the number of people who I've allowed to borrow money, and the relationship got damaged because I loaned them money and they did not pay me back that money. And even though I had the crucial conversation with them, I had that conversation. And so, that highlights for sure one of the types of crucial conversations, or the reasons why you would have to have one.
Oh man. Hey, maybe you know these, because I don't know these, but Facebook user over here just got done saying the 5 A's of relationships, and I think that's supposed to be love, not loan languages, were huge to learn when talking about a relationship, platonic or not. Do you know either of those?
I know about the 5 love languages, but the 5 A's of relationship, if they want to elaborate, they can.
Please elaborate. And you know what? I promise you, I will share those 5 A's of relationships and 5 loan. Just give us a rundown on each one, if you wouldn't mind, and I'll make sure we'll spend at least a minute or two on those. I'd like to unpack that a little bit, because that's interesting to me. Coach, I like systems.
That's right. And coach, while they do that, I know you're gonna like this next one, man, because the next one is,
let's go,
giving the boss feedback about their behavior.
Oh my gosh.
You know what, coach?
You know what? Let me take a step back from that. I have a module within my course about this because it is so important. It's called Leading Up and Down the Chain of Command. And why is it leading up and down the chain of command? Because guess what? If you want a certain outcome, you are responsible for that. It's ownership, taking responsibility of everything within your sphere of influence. If your boss is doing something you don't like, well, you're never going to know if that issue is going to get solved if you don't bring it up. You have a personal responsibility to make sure that you address that with your boss. Otherwise, he's probably not even going to know that he's ticking you off. And once you address that, you're probably going to earn a few kudos. You might annoy him at first, but guess what? It's better to be pissed off than pissed on. I have naughty language today, and I'm okay with it. But, it's at the end of the day, he's going to walk away from that and think a little bit, and he or she will be very happy that you brought it up, because they're going to start off with a complex, and they're going to start thinking about what they could do differently. And then they're going to bring it up to you again, and you're going to have a conversation. And by the way, because you mentioned that, you just earned trust because you were honest and open about something.
Mm.
Isn't that
Yes.
wonderful? How being a little bit vulnerable and honest with somebody can build a relationship.
Yes. That's powerful, coach. And it's similar for me in therapy practice. Where this comes up in therapy, I think, is when you have a family system that you grew up in. Let's just say you're going through some trauma and you had a family system where, my grandmother used to always say, children are supposed to be seen and not heard, boy. Right. And so that creates this power dynamic between you and the authority figure, that you can't bring up things and it's not safe to bring up things. And so in therapy, a lot of times I explore those earlier narratives and those thought patterns and help people rewrite those things, because it almost like, you think about that, if you grew up in a family system that told you to not speak up for yourself, then that could potentially arrest your development. And then it's so important to hit certain developmental milestones throughout the lifespan. And so, a lot of times I'm jumping in there with people, helping them rewrite those stories, those origin stories. Man, isn't that amazing that you can come to a place and rewrite your story to make it better, so that way your self-concept is improved, your ability to connect with others improved. And so it's a really fun exercise. If it's something that you could even do on your own, which is going back over your life and rewriting that story. It's so easier. It's a lot more helpful though when you're in session with the clinician, to be able to work through, how do I rewrite this very painful memory that was in my life and look at it in a different way and change my perception. And when I change my perception, I change my reality. And so being able to reconstruct those stories will help you then go and have that crucial conversation with that boss. Because if you think of yourself in a certain way, in a certain light, then you're going to continue to not want to bring up difficult conversations. And so we really got to explore those earlier experiences.
Isn't that interesting? Yes. And I'm going to go ahead and I could argue that the only way a person can change their narrative is if they make a positive steps towards doing that. And anybody can change their narrative. If you don't like something about what's going on in your life and you continue just to let that thing continue, then people aren't going to want to hear this. But guess what? That is your fault. If you continue to let bad things happen in your life, and you could have controlled something, or maybe had an effect on that, maybe not. There are some things that are outside of our control, like having to get up in the middle of the night because the baby's screaming. Well, you can't do anything about that. But if there's something in your life that you don't like and you can do something to change it and you don't, that's on you. That's on nobody else. And so those people that complain about those things, I grit my teeth if I don't have a close relationship with them, because it makes me want to bite rocks. It makes me so upset when people just live in their own suck when they can do
Yeah.
something about it.
Yeah. And you're right. So that's why there's tools. That's why there's resources and support out there for you to get that, for all of us to get that help that we need. And so we have to take that. We got to take that next step, because it affects. You think about this. We're talking about crucial conversations, and it's going back to things that could have happened to us, which again, it just builds on all of our talks about emotional intelligence and just being able to be aware. That's so important.
Yep. So the 5 A's of relationships: acceptance, appreciation, attention, affection, and the 5th one is allowing. Ooh, that can be good and bad. Thank you for sharing that. I believe that is, like always, probably Michael. I really appreciate you always showing up on these things. But the 5 A's of a relationship: Acceptance. You know what? If you are in an intimate relationship or even a business partnership and you choose that partnership with somebody, you have to accept that person for who they are because you chose that relationship. Appreciation. Well, if you don't appreciate the one you're with, who else are you going to appreciate? And by the way, if you have a horrible relationship with yourself, it's going to be very hard for you to appreciate or accept anybody else.
Right.
Attention. People need that validation. That's both attention and affection, right? Where you know, they just want to be shown by that other person that they're doing the right thing, that you know they're cared for. It's all of those things. It's both attention and affection. You have to show that person that you care about them. Allowing, you know, that could go so many different ways. I'm not 100% clear on what that is. Allowing, putting up with the
Yeah,
putting up with the good, the bad,
allowing sounds like accommodating.
accommodating.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what they're probably alluding to.
Yep. Okay.
But and look at this, another crucial conversation. I think this one is important. Given an unfavorable performance review, right? You get an unfavorable performance review, and you have to have a crucial conversation with a boss. And you've already kind of given us some feedback about that, you know, in the way of the first question about feedback to a boss about behavior, but that's more so, you know, speaking of the individual, like their self concept and their esteem. If they get marked down in the performance review when they thought maybe they performed better, I've actually dealt with that as well in counseling with individuals, and it's interesting because when people talk about their performance at work, again, it goes back to defectiveness schema, childhood stuff, and then they have the crucial conversation in their mind, and they don't take the argument in their mind, put it on paper, and respond back to that boss. And so, Coach, what do you recommend to people when they're, you know, when they have to have? I mean, that's how I would look at it from a therapeutic standpoint. From as a coach, how does one have a crucial conversation when they know that they're putting their all their energy and effort into a job, into a company, and yet not really feeling like their performance is being you know, valued the way that they see it.
You know, I learned a very valuable lesson back in 2008. That's about a year after I got my first formal leadership position. And I gave an evaluation to one of my people that was not favorable, and they didn't expect it. And we had a long conversation about it. We kind of unpacked what that looked like for them.
Mm-hmm.
And once I figured out why they were upset about it, I knew it was actually my fault. And you know, I didn't have enough conversations with that person on a regular basis to give them feedback before that review to make sure they, you know, first of all, usually a performance review is an annual. Oh, good Lord, all these notifications popping up. No, but usually that's like an annual thing or a quarterly thing sometimes. I mean, in the military, it's a quarterly thing if you're in a leadership position. But if you're doing the right thing as a leader, then you are constantly setting and managing expectations. And let me say just a little bit more about that because you brought it up. This is a rabbit hole I could go down. I have an entire class on this. But basically what that means is that when you have a new employee and they first walk in the door, the very first thing you do is let them know why they're hired onto the company and what their job is and how to do it. And then you let them know that you appreciate them and to come to you whenever they need something. Well, after that, you follow up with them on a regular basis. I highly recommend either daily or weekly at a minimum if you can help it. Constantly asking how you can help them and letting them know if there's anything they can do better, but also just getting to know that person. And back to answering your question, I learned back in 2008 that I wasn't doing that properly. And what that means is as a leader, if I would have been doing the proper procedures and setting and managing expectations, and they would have known long before that performance review that they were going to get a negative performance review because they had many opportunities to correct very many deficiencies that they had. And that is just, it's not so basic, actually. That's like a step up from becoming a manager for the first time. You have to understand how to do this. Everything as a manager is a new skill, but when you take it from an ownership standpoint, it's really a leader responsibility to make sure that every single performance review is not a surprise. Mm-hmm. And if it is, that performance review, unfortunately, goes on their permanent work record for that company that they're in, and it could affect their promotions. Mm-hmm. It could affect everything. And so why would you short the employee an opportunity by not telling them before the performance review that they're not doing a good job? That just eludes me. And so that is why that is such a big deal. The performance, that is not when you should be finding out. And that is a supervisor or whatever that next level is, the person you work for, that is their responsibility to make sure that's not a surprise on the day of your review, on that permanent document that goes in your file.
That's true. I hear you. And also I want to add is that I think that the crucial conversations, to your point, probably should happen with the employee in between at critical points and not just copying and pasting a performance review. And so the crucial conversations are many, right? Every time
those
an employee has
conversations. Yes.
That's what I hear you saying.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh man.
That was good.
That when he told me that he didn't expect that, I immediately took a hard look at myself. I'm like, what did I do wrong? He should know this. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking that he was an idiot. And then I'm like, no, it can't be him because I told him this before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yeah, that was a hard lesson because I took that to heart, and I remembered that for basically the rest of my military career all the way up till now.
Well, and that's what makes you a great coach, man, is the fact that you're introspective and you're having a crucial conversation with yourself about that. But more importantly, now I'm sure you talked that over with senior leadership and other individuals as well, and is able to, and that's why you develop the skill set that you have to coach people, man. And that's what makes you the coach.
The coach. I tell you what, you're right. I have to have those crucial conversations with myself. That's why you shouldn't come into my office when I don't know you're coming. You might get weirded out. It's like me going back and forth like this. Well, probably me cursing out my computer.
Got you. Well, we've given, I know we're coming to a close, man, and we've given them a lot of examples, man. That was quick, man. That was a good talk though, man. I think this idea of crucial conversations, coach, I could see where, as a coach and as a therapist, where there's opportunity for crisis counseling and crisis coaching around these issues. We need to be able to provide people a space for that if they're willing and able. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. As a matter of fact, I've been really kind of mulling over and probably am going to do this, is offer some crisis counseling for a brief, maybe a 2 to 4 hour window, kind of like in the military where we had a talk and we had an opening where somebody could kind of call in and have a crucial and be able to work through a crucial conversation. I've really been thinking about this, and so as we're talking about this, man, I'm really going to be offering that, man, as an opportunity for people.
Hey, we got a fan here, buddy. Michael, I love you, man. He said this show needs to be an hour.
Oh, we need to be 1 hour? Okay.
We could probably do that. But you know what? Let's stick to 30 minutes for a little while. It's also goes on a podcast. So I want the podcast to start getting viewers too. But I appreciate you, man. Hey, if you ever want to be a guest on here, just let us know. And when we start taking interviewees, doing interviews, then we'd be happy to have you on here. I would love to talk. So Michael has he has a disability. He barely has use of his legs. He's a great guy, but he even has a podcast that he does on Instagram where he talks about this to bring awareness to the issues that people that have disabilities have with the world.
Hmm.
And so psychologically, you know, from a coaching and a therapy standpoint, I would love to have a conversation about that. I think that would be interesting.
Absolutely. And you
But
know what? This is a great time, man, when we just come on here and we're able to share our expertise. But then also I think the genuineness, man, that comes with it is what's powerful, man. The fact that we both enjoy helping people.
yes,
And I think that, you know, when you really dig into this crucial conversation, you know, we could probably have a whole series about this, because the truth is that there's been times in my own life where, dude, I've lost sleep. I wasn't connecting at home the way that I should, because I was having a crucial conversation about some of the topics I mentioned in my own head, instead of like just having the conversation, moving past it, and then moving on with my life. And so I've learned a very valuable lesson as I develop as a leader, that it's better to just have the crucial conversation up front than to waste all this time, energy, and effort and mental energy to just be in your head when you don't know what that person is actually thinking. And so going in there and having a crucial conversation is about getting clarity. And clarity is good for us. It's healthy, because now because when you really, if we really to go into detail about crucial conversations, it's trying to really discern what is the intent of the person's message when they came across and may have said something to you that could have offended you. That's really the heart of a crucial conversation, is to make sure that we're not imposing our own ideology and thinking that we know what someone's intent is, because a lot of times that's based on our own trauma history and other experiences that we had. And so, yeah, this is a really good topic, man.
I agree. And before I close this out and ask you if you have a final message for the audience, do you remember that commercial? I think it was a Geico commercial where he said words can hurt people, and then he started riding away, and then he hits his head on the end
Mhm.
thing, and he flips off the horse, and the gal in the background's like, Jesse. So words can hurt people. But
Yes,
anyway,
they can.
do you have any final message other than that
No,
stupid Geico
I'm
commercial?
not following that.
What's that?
I'm not following behind that Geico commercial.
All right, y'all, check it out. If this information resonates with you, if you like it, then make sure you get it to other people that could potentially learn from this stuff or benefit from this stuff as well. Like it, subscribe to it, depending on the platform you see this on. Share it, repost it. But the most important thing is to keep the conversation going. So put a comment below and, you know, say the hard things, the things that people need to see and stuff like that, so that we can get comments going all over the place. I do want to share that in about a week and a half, I'm going to start a cohort for my first time leaders course. If you're interested in that, it's not free. There's no such thing as free chicken, but it is going to be a cohort. And so if you're interested in that, I have only 15 spots that I'm going to allow for this course. And so it'll only be available until those spots are gone. So let me know if you're interested. Just comment interested below. We'll see you all next week. Take care and stay blessed.